Finishing a Photocopy Transfer by Doris Charest. Now, a lot of my students were requesting that I show them how to finish a photocopy transfer. So here I have my photocopy transfer on a base that's mostly quinacridone gold and a bit of yellow and a bit of green, and I'm going to add elements to it. I'm going to add collage, stenciling, stamping, a lot of variety of things. And that's generally what I do. But before I start, usually what I do is I pick a composition. You can know more about composition by following my Composition for Abstracts course, and in one of those, there's a composition called Strata or the X. And in this one, I was trying to decide which one I liked the most. And I think for this one, what I'm going to follow is the composition for the X. So what you need for that is an element that goes more or less up and down, and then you add some diagonal elements. Here I'm collaging some polka dot tissue paper. I'm making sure that it's on a diagonal. So most of the elements will be on a diagonal. Here I can add some stamps. I have homemade stamps and I have bought stamps, and I just pick. My daughter is a nature buff, and this is a photocopy of her. So I'm adding some plant elements. My daughter is part of my dream series, where I try to portray the dreams of youth, the energy. And that's what I love, is the energy of youth and the dreams and the potential, the thinking that everything is possible. And that's what I like to portray in my paintings where she's featured. So I try to decide if there's going to be stripes that go up and down or diagonally. It's hard to decide sometimes, and you have to just try it out. The beauty of collage is you can try it. When you're doing acrylic painting, you put it on and then you'd have to wipe it off. And it's really hard sometimes to really wipe off everything. So here what I'm doing is I'm just placing the elements where I think they might go. And if I like the look of it, I just add it. I have to admit that this painting makes it look easy. Sometimes it takes me weeks to create a painting, and other times it takes me just a few days, depending on how it goes. For this one, I have to own up. You're seeing the speeded up version, but also it took me several weeks to put this video together. So deciding what will go where is a big job because you want to make sure it looks good. The beauty of collage, though, is that if you don't like it, you can paint over it. The other beauty of collage is you can add pieces and blend them together with gel, and it looks like one big piece that you plan to have there, and you cut it perfectly. Whereas all you did is just collage a few pieces together and it looks good the way it is. So here I'm going to add gel. Adding gel underneath and on top is very important. I talk more in my mixed media class on the importance of not having air bubbles. Air bubbles create a danger. If your painting rubs, once it's dry, against another painting, it might rub off some of the bubbles. And then the paper will disappear. It'll just wear right off. And you don't want that. You can collage more pieces on top and just make it look like it's blending. So this is a quick overview of what you learn in my mixed media class. You can get more detail if you take the full class. I'm adding things fairly quickly here and making choices. Sometimes the choices are hard to make. There will be times you'll need to let the pieces dry before continuing. In this video, I'm just piecing all the different videos together, and the drying time has happened already. So remember, you can't do it in one sitting. So right now, I'm going to add a stencil. My daughter's a traveler, so I'm adding a stencil to commemorate that. At the same time, it's a design element, so I'm adding the mama, papa, baby sizes of the stencil. So small, medium, and large pieces of stencil so that they blend together. And it also makes me think of the subject matter. And I repeat the purple everywhere. Not everywhere, but in many places. Now I'm adding white because I want to highlight the figure. If you put white down and then dab it with paper towel, you end up with a very interesting texture, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm just dabbing it, and it gives you that mottled look. Now I'm adding photocopy transfers that I've added to tissue paper, and I'm adding those in and blending them in. If you're upside down for this part, I'm sorry about that. I forgot to move the clip around. And now this time I'm adding mark making. So I'm adding some of my favorite techniques. Mark making is ink that I draw onto the painting, and I use my stick. I take a branch that I've altered, and I show you how to do that in my mixed media class, and I draw with it. And I love the irregularity of the ink. So the mark is never the same all the time. So we have fat and skinny marks, and it looks good. Now I'm adding white to the figure. I add white in the eyes to make it look more lively. And I add a little more white there to highlight it so that my eye goes all the way down to the bottom and starts at the top and moves all the way down on the white. So I'm repeating the white so that it is blended all over. The next step is adding stamps. So that stamps add texture, but also I'm thinking about the figure and the personality. And my daughter's a writer, so there's a writer in the family, and it makes me think of her when I see the writing. The writing is a great stamp for adding texture. Keep in mind that when you add texture, it's good to add it in different places. Here I'm adding it in 3 different places, and I'm keeping to my motto that I teach in my mixed media class, Mama, Papa, Baby. Here I have small, medium, and large pieces of text. Oh, there's a lot to do here. So I keep adding and seeing if I'm happy with the end product. I check that my eye is going around the painting still and the textures are repeated enough. Sometimes when I paint my paint onto the stamp, I don't quite get enough on and I have to do it over again. Or I put too much and then I have to dab it off. Then what I do is I go around and take the white that's near the edges and smooth or dull them out. If I have white around the edges, it'll take away from my focal point, so I dull down the areas. Here I'm using my favorite color, quinacridone gold, but you can use any color that you like. This gold blends really well with the purple. I also have part of the color wheel happening here. I have gold and purple and pinks, which work really well together. Purple and yellow are great combos. And then I add the black and the white. And the pinks is an extra little touch. There's a lot to do here around the edges. Keep in mind that another composition tip or design tip is trying to make sure that all 4 corners are different. If you keep your design elements irregular, it makes a more interesting painting, but it also stops people from going away from your painting. They think, oh, this is quite interesting because, oh, it's different here and it's different there. Now I'm adding highlights on the forehead and on the chin to show that there's light shining there. And then I'll keep reworking this painting sometimes for weeks and tweak it here, tweak it there, until I'm happy with the end product. Sometimes it will even last months. I can work for months on a painting. The best thing to do is to put your painting in a place where you will see it when you walk by, and then you can check, see if there's anything that needs to be added to it. So that's it for photocopy transfers. Check out my new mixed media class, and we'll see you there.